Today, I'm sharing with you a simple 3-step handshake to sexualize beautiful women and build massive amounts of sexual tension in a short burst. Within just a few minutes of meeting a woman, you've already broken through that touch barrier with her. The woman feels like she knows you personally. There's this sense of familiarity there, kind of like you're an old friend of hers. And she's already giving you highly sexualized eye contact, all through this one single move of introducing yourself. Look, you have to introduce yourself to the woman anyway when you meet her. So why have it be platonic and lame? Why not use this as an opportunity to give the woman a chance to fall in love with you by introducing yourself in this very special way that she has never experienced before? I'm Dr. Fiona Gray, your trusted men's health advisor. Here's the plan for today. First, why exchanging names early creates familiarity and breaks the touch barrier, the foundation everything else builds on. Then, the exact 3-step handshake technique that builds sexual tension through close proximity, sustained eye contact, and extended hand-holding. And finally, when to initiate the handshake for maximum impact, the social hook point that tells you she's ready. The timing piece is crucial because do it too early and it falls flat. Too late and you've missed the window. Hit that subscribe button because what we're covering today is based on body language psychology, sexual tension mechanics, and the honest truth about creating chemistry through physical touch. Let's start with why you want to exchange names with the woman, and do that pretty early on in the interaction. It creates a sense of comfort and it creates a sense of familiarity. Because once you start addressing that woman by her first name, she's going to feel like you're more like a friend or a guy in her social circle, rather than some random stranger that she just met. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The second reason you want to introduce yourself and shake the woman's hand is because it breaks the touch barrier. You're making physical contact with the woman. And shaking her hand also creates a sense of familiarity. Another thing it does is it helps to build that sexual tension. And this is where it gets critical. The first step to executing this move is you're going to lift your hand up and you're going to step into the woman closer. You're going to step in closer with your hand extended. You're taking a step into her personal space and you're going to say something along the lines of, "Hey, by the way, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Andrew." And you're just going to hold your hand out expectantly for her to take it. Here's the important thing. As you step into the woman and introduce yourself with your hand extended, you want to have a little bit of a cocky smile on your face. But even more importantly, you want to look the woman directly in the eyes and hold that eye contact with her. Give her a sustained eye contact moment. Keep this in mind because it connects directly to sexual tension. Eye contact is your bread and butter move for building sexual tension. It's that holding eye contact with the woman from a very close distance. So as you step in closer to the woman for the handshake and you're going into her personal space, closing the distance, holding eye contact with her, what do you think that does? It builds up the sexual tension. She's going to feel that sexual chemistry all of a sudden. You're going from like a 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10 sexual tension just through the close eye contact. Remember this because we'll come back to it. That's step number 2, introducing yourself, giving her your name where you say, "Hey, by the way, I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself." You're extending your hand, you're stepping in closer. "My name is Andrew." And then you ask her, "And who are you? What's your name?" If your sub-communication is even halfway decent, if you say the words and you step in closer and make eye contact with certainty and with expressiveness, and you're just holding out your hand to the woman with certainty that she's going to take it back, 99% of women will reach out themselves and take your hand simply because it is the polite thing to do. It is social convention. It is the easy thing to do for the woman. It's just going with the flow. Just imagine if she didn't take your hand in that moment. How incredibly awkward would that be? And women absolutely hate awkwardness. so she's always going to take your hand back. Don't worry about getting a rejection on a handshake here, because it's not going to happen. Let me clear up a massive misunderstanding about this technique. Look at where you are now. You've now taken her hand. You've closed the space. You're in her personal space now. You've broken the touch barrier. She's touching you, you're touching her. You're looking directly into each other's eyes. That's going to create some sexual tension. What you'll do next is ask her for her name. Who are you? What's your name? And she'll say like, Sarah. Then you're going to repeat her name back to her out loud. Ah, Sarah, Sarah. Okay, Sarah. Nice to meet you, Sarah. What you're doing by repeating her name back out loud is committing her name to memory. This is very important. You have to remember the woman's name. You're also repeating her name out loud to create a sense of familiarity with her. Because when a woman hears her name spoken back to her, you're not a stranger to her anymore. You're more like part of her social circle or an acquaintance of hers. Now here's a little trick you can do to build even more sexual tension with a woman off of an introduction. Give her an extended handshake. Instead of pulling your hand away from the woman, just keep holding her hand. Keep holding her hand while you look into her eyes and you give her that sustained eye contact. You might say to her, for example, "And who are you? What's your name?" "Ah, okay, Sarah. I like that name. It's a pretty name." And the whole time, you're just holding your hand while you look into her eyes, holding her hand while you give her that eye contact. "Sarah, I actually dated a woman that looked a little bit like you, short, blonde." Here's the thing. This is the one thing you're doing differently. As you keep talking to her, you do not pull your hand away. You just keep holding her hand for as long as possible while you keep looking into her eyes to build that sexual tension. In fact, you want to keep holding your hand there for an uncomfortably long period of time, for a weirdly long period of time. I found from experience that in many cases, a woman will hold your hand for 5 to 10 seconds, sometimes even longer, just because she's really enjoying that sexual tension you're giving her. She's loving the tingles and that sexualized eye contact, and you're actually getting her a little bit turned on. Here's the trick to making this all work. When you're holding your hand in hers and you're not pulling away, you're just letting that tension sit. Eventually, at some point, you're going to feel that woman pull her hand away. When you feel the woman starting to pull her hand away, that's when you pull your hand away. That's when you pull away your hand first. Let's repeat that. When you're holding the woman's hand and you're letting that sexual tension sit there, eventually, you're going to start to feel the woman pull her hand away. Could be 5 seconds later, 10 seconds later, 15 seconds later. But as soon as you start to feel her pull her hand away, that's when you pull your hand away first. So to her, it feels like you pulled away first. And that's just a little trick to maximize the amount of sexual tension that you're building off an introduction. Now the question does arise, when do you introduce yourself? When does that actually happen? How soon does it happen in an interaction? One opinion you might have heard is that you don't want to proactively introduce yourself to the woman. Instead, you want to wait for the woman to ask you for your name. And only when she asks you for your name, that's when you introduce yourself. The reasoning behind this is so that you can kind of gauge that woman's interest level. Because when she asks you for your name, that means she's interested. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of this method. I believe that games should be played offensively, not defensively. I would recommend that you proactively get the woman's name. I'd recommend that you proactively take her hand very early on in the interaction. That's going to help build the sense of familiarity very early on. You're going to break the touch barrier very early on. It's an opportunity to create some sexual tension very early on. Taking her hand, holding her eyes, giving her that sustained eye contact. It's a bold move. It's attractive. It shows her that you're a take charge kind of person, that you are leading the interaction. How do you know when to initiate the handshake and introduce yourself? You want to look for that moment when the woman is fully engaged with you. The moment when she's reached that social hook point with you. the moment that her attention is 100% on you and you sense that she's been pulled into that conversation. You can usually tell that she's at the social hook point by reading her eyes. Do her eyes change? Do her eyes get brighter and bigger? Or you could read it in the woman's smile. Is she starting to smile more? Or is she investing more in the conversation? Is she asking you questions about yourself? Or did she turn her body more to face you? As soon as you sense through her body language and her nonverbal signals, well, she's kind of into me, I got her to stop, she's talking to me, she's interested, then you know you've reached that social hook point, and now you can introduce yourself to the woman. Here's the bottom line. The three-step handshake builds sexual tension through close proximity, sustained eye contact, and extended hand-holding that breaks social norms in an attractive way. When you step into her personal space with your hand extended and hold direct eye contact, when you repeat her name back to create familiarity, and when you hold her hand for an uncomfortably long period while maintaining eye contact until she starts to pull away first, you're creating sexual chemistry that 99% of men never generate. Try this approach starting today. Wait for the social hook point when her eyes brighten, she smiles more, she asks questions, and her body turns toward you. Step in close with your hand extended and introduce yourself with direct eye contact. Repeat her name back to commit it to memory and create familiarity. Hold her hand while you keep talking and maintain eye contact for 5 to 15 seconds until you feel her start to pull away. Then you pull away first. Watch how her pupils dilate and her breathing changes. That's when you know the sexual tension is working. If you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment and tell me, do you have a particular way you like to introduce yourself to women? I read every single one. Thanks for watching. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking care of yourself.